Hi viewers, it's Brandon over here at Gur Safety. I just want to do a quick review on this epoxy and Bondo because I haven't found any with this fiberglass site epoxy system versus the Bondo. I can tell you that I don't like the Bondo. I've used both of these systems already, which is why I decided to do a review. But we'll show you what we got working with right now. So what we're gonna do is make the AB fiberglass side epoxy system up, and we're gonna coat these two pieces of fiberglass. I got 2-ounce butters cloth. I have to check that and make sure it's right. But 2-ounce butters cloth. Actually, I think that's 5-ounce. And then sea glass chop steering fiberglass mat. And then I got same thing, 5-ounce butters cloth and Evercoat sea glass fiberglass mat. This mat takes 2.5 times what this takes as far as the resin quantity. So if this is 1 pound of resin versus 1 pound for every 1 pound of cloth, this is I want to say 2.5 pounds of resin for every pound of cloth. And the reason is because of the density and the way it's all chop stranded together. This is our Bondo fiberglass resin, stuff I don't like. It is a let's see, where was it? Anyways, I wrote it on a cup. It was like 3 ounces of resin for a quarter teaspoon of hardener. And then this one is a 2-to-1 mix ratio, I believe it was. Or it might have been 3-to-1. Oh yeah, 3-to-1. So 3 parts resin, 1 part hardener, and we have a 3-to-1 ratio on here. So we take it up to 1, and then we take it up to 1, which would be our resin mix. Resin for 1 part hardener, and then we're gonna get these nice and soaked and stick them on the cardboard. And the reason we did that was because the cardboard shouldn't affect the results all that much. But I haven't done this, so we're gonna find out. So we're gonna start with the Bondo because it takes the least amount of time to do it. So they say to soak your mat or soak the area that you're working on with the resin before you stick your mat on. And the reason is the bubbles come out a lot easier when there's a lot of resin. So we got that part. Now we're going to take our chop strand mat and do the same thing. And I can already feel this stuff hardening up. Like so. It's already setting. I don't like this stuff at all. And then we'll take this. Now, if somebody has any better ways of doing this and tips, I'm all ears. But I'm not an expert, and I get a lot of questions about this stuff, and I'm learning. And I'm not going to say I don't have a lot of the answers that people ask, but a lot of it is playing with it and paying attention and to what others are telling you as well. So where I got a lot of my information from was a master boat builder, actually, and he's got a YouTube page, and I don't remember his name or what his page is, but I can find that out later. So that is the first one. So this Bondo garbage is, you got about, it says 15 minutes to work with, but I actually found that you only have about 3 minutes, about, I'd say 8 to 10 minutes to actually work it. And you saw how fast that was setting with their ratios that they were saying to use. And we're gonna let that dry, and then tomorrow we'll find out, we'll show you how durable or not durable it is. This one is a 3-to-1. This one's a little bit easier to use. I really like this one, and you'll see why here in a second. So this is the resin in the white container. So I'm gonna go to 3-to-1. We're gonna do 1 ounce or 1 on this one. This is another thing I like about this resin mix, is it clear. If you want to do stuff with counters and whoops, way too much, countertops and crafts and things, this is the stuff. And this is completely clear, where the Bondo is brown. I know I used a cardboard box, which isn't going to tell you a whole lot as far as the coloration, but it's okay. Okay, so there's that. Now, the hard part is getting the hardener out of this, which they say there's a pump for. I have not been able to get one because Alaska sucks and nobody will ship. This stuff is very, very expensive. This 3-gallon kit that I got was, it was $200 in shipping for a $200 kit. It's not something you want to play with, even though I am. And it's not something you want to waste, that's for sure. Okay, so that is done. I'm going to use a brush to mix this one because I have, actually, you know what? No, I won't. We're going to mix it with the screw. And you can see all of that mixing. It's changing colors a little bit. It's getting more milky. We're going to make it a consistent, bubbled up color. And then this stuff we have half hour to work with about. They've got the temperature ranges on here that tell you what the sets are. It's a medium set on this one, which is okay for what I'm doing with it. And then we'll soak our cloth. And we'll put that right there. And you can already see the color differences between the two. Now you cannot put polyester resin on top of fiberglass resin. Or you can't put polyester resin on top of epoxy resin. They are not compatible. But if you have something that, like a boat that has polyester hole where they made it out of a polyester resin, you can go over top of it with an epoxy resin because it has flexibility. It will be able to move. But if you put flexibility underneath, or if you put something that's a lot denser, stiffer, on top of something that flexes, it's just going to pop off. So that's why you can't put polyester resin on top of epoxy resin, because the epoxy can move and expand and the polyester can't. So you can put epoxy resin on top of polyester resin, but you can't put polyester resin on top of epoxy resin, if that makes any sense to you. I am making a mess here now. So you can see the mat. I did decide to switch to the brush, which I should have did on that one too, but you can see the mat sucking all of that liquid in, and just work that in. And you can see all that resin just went through that mat. That's what we want when you're using this stuff. So that's white matte. It's still absorbing. This is another reason why I don't like polyester resin, especially the cheap Bondo garbage, because that's pretty much done. You can touch it, you can beat on it, whatever. But when you want it to absorb into plywood, you only have about 2 minutes before you're done, before it starts setting to where it won't absorb in. Now, this is changing colors, and you can see the color differences on there now. That is because we're popping all of the air bubbles underneath and in between this mat. That is what this roller is. It's a bubble popper. It moves the resins around and allows the air to escape. Like so. And that's our resins right there. You can see the difference already. This one is a lot cleaner looking. This one, not so much. Looks like a crap job. It's darker brown, clear, and you can see it right there. You can't see it. And that is epoxy system, fiberglass site epoxy system versus Bondo cheap crap fiberglass, also fiberglass resin. So that is all we got for today. We'll come back and let you see it tomorrow. and show you the differences between the two. I was actually a little bit surprised at the differences, and this is one of the biggest complaints that I hear about Bondo right now, and I will show you tomorrow what we're talking about and explain it a little bit. So that's all I got for now on this project. We're gonna move on to the next project, and we'll show you what we got there here in a second. Alright guys, so we're back. We got our Bondo samples, our resin samples here. They're dry. They're sticky to the point you can see my fingerprints on them. That is the catalyst. It separates from the resin itself once it cures completely, and we just wash that off with a light cleaner or water. The Bondo doesn't do that as much. It does some, but for the most part that's hard. But what I don't like is it's so rigid, it warped this panel. So if you're trying to make something not perfectly straight or flat, I would do the epoxy. I'm gonna wash the epoxy resin off real quick, and we'll start playing with it and see what happens. And I'm not gonna say that the Bondo cheap stuff doesn't have a place, because I'm sure it does. It's just not the place. It's not for me. I want something with quality, even if it's gonna cost me 3.5 arms and a leg. And I'm gonna wipe this one just because it can. Okay, so that is clean. Now, the last test I did, I had a little bit of just resin and a little bit of epoxy, but I don't recall having it recorded. Or I might have, and that might be one of the ones that got lost. I'm not sure. But we're gonna bend this around. You see how much flex that has before it starts cracking? That's cracking right before the... That cracked a little bit there too. But this fiberglass mat, that's pretty rigid right there. And even that one, that took a little bit of a bend. That one took a lot more bend. But when it breaks, that starts popping off of the surface that it is stuck to, and flaking to where when it's on other stuff, it tends to separate like that. Not so it's, for the most part, it's holding pretty well. But like I said, they all have their place. I just don't know if they all are. And I just don't like that. That boat mat held up pretty well, actually. A lot better than the fiberglass cloth. But even with that being said, that's pretty strong for Bondo. But this one, you can see how that's a much better overall bond. Instead of just shearing, it's actually stretching it apart. Where this one just sheared, this one stretches pretty evenly all the way across the whole thing. So they have their place. Like I said, I'm not an expert on fiberglass, but I like this epoxy based stuff much better, especially with the fiberglass mat versus the boating cloth. That's pretty cool, and that's held up a lot better than the other stuff. And this is you can see it just stretching all the strands apart in the mat. Where this one, it just snaps. Like so. And this is matte right here. Where if you got some flex, this one's gonna be the much better option. Out of the 3 that I did, I actually like that one best. With the epoxy and the matte, it's the best as far as what it's going to do, how it's going to behave. And here's just that's just the boater's cloth. So boater's cloth isn't designed to bend all that much, even though it's pretty sturdy on the epoxy. It'll bend a lot more than this one. Well, or not. Actually, a little disappointed, to be honest. But you can see how hard it is to come off of this piece of cardboard versus the Bondo. So it's sticking a lot better than Bondo. The Bondo just came right off. That ripped pretty easy, but that's no adhesion right there on the cardboard. See how easy that separates too easy. And granted, I used cardboard so I can get that off, but this is thick Bondo resin right here with fiberglass mat, and it just shears. This is epoxy resin with fiberglass mat. And so far, I can't get that off the cardboard. And you can see how much better the adhesion is. I can't get the cardboard off at all. It's kind of become part of it. So if you need to do some molds and stuff, you can use cardboard and your epoxy resin to make it one. See, the Bondo just sheared in half. This one, I have to bend that and snap it several times to get it to break. And there you this is butter cloth. I've done messed it all up. But you can see how much better that adhesion is versus the butter cloth on the Bondo. No adhesion. Supposedly it's stuck, but compared to this, which is what's left of the butter cloth, versus this, which is what's left of the Bondo, I'll take this. It's got a different type of strength. So this is tensile strength on this one, so this is pull. This epoxy resin is 140,000 tensile strength. I don't have a clue what Bondo is because Bondo doesn't tell you. They're that cheap. But there you go. Bondo versus epoxy resin. And if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. I'll redo the test. I got plenty of this stuff. As expensive it is as it is. Or if you want me to do something else, let me know. One of the tests that I want to do is plywood versus OSB, because there's no videos on that either. So we're going to play around with it. This is pretty strong. This is pretty brittle. And that's not what they were designed for, but that was the best way I could test it. So hopefully you all have a good week. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helps and that you can figure out what kind of work you're going to use and do. And you can see that it just snaps. When you're doing auto body repair, that snapping, you don't want that snapping. You'd rather have this, because this is less likely to pop off, where this will pop off. That's almost a given. It's just the way it's designed, and it's really rigid on these fiberglass hoods.